You hear me? It's us.
Yeah.
We.
Yeah.
Us. We. I can't do this alone.
Right.
It's got to be together. And it's just pragmatic problem solving. It's common sense. You hear that today. But it's common sense.
Right.
But it's common sense if you have had the experience.
Right.
Have you signed the front of a check? Have you made payroll?
Right.
Have you come out of your pocket for payroll when you got to pay others first before you pay yourself?
Right.
And that's really, do you have brass balls? And can you fight the fight?
Yo, welcome to another episode of In a Minute with Evan Lovett, coming to you live from the I Am Studios in the heart of LA. And you better get a clue about our next guest, because he just might be the next governor of California. I'm talking about Steven Kubeck. Grew up in Los Angeles and is running for governor. Successful businessman, entrepreneur, author, reality TV star. But again, I want to make clear, this is a wide open gubernatorial race, and Mr. Kubeck will be running. Steven Kubeck, glad to have you in the studio. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This is a treat. I'm coming back to my roots here in the Valley.
Let's go. The Great 1-8, they call it.
Time out.
Yeah.
When I grew up here,
Yeah.
the San Fernando Valley was 213.
Pre-1984 then. Not to date you, not to date it, but I know that the first additional area code in LA came in in 1984.
That's probably true, but I can tell you my number was 213-788-3808. Go give that number a ring. And then we turned to 818, but that was our phone number.
Do you still have a 213?
No, I have a 310.
You know, it's funny. I have a 310. This confession time for me before we get into the interview. I am Mr. 818. As anybody knows, I rep the Valley so hard. I always thought I was going to have an 818 number because I had an 818 landline. And when I was looking for jobs out of UCLA on my resume, I was like, I don't want to have an 818 number, because at the time, and this is a while ago, there was a stigma about the Valley, right? I loved it, but there was a stigma, and I was like, no, I'm more likely to get a call back if it's 310, and I will always have an 818 because the landline's 818. And lo and behold, we no longer have a landline, and my cell phone is 310. So I guess to my chagrin, though, I'm proud of.
Be proud of the Valley. I'm proud of the Valley.
Oh, I'm proud of the Valley, but at the time I needed to get a job. And I thought it'd be better. So anyway, before we jump in, I got to give a shout out to our sponsor today, Arto Brick, Los Angeles company, third generation, run by my man Armin. His grandfather was a immigrant from Lebanon via Armenia, and they are manufacturing in LA tile and brick, and you
love it.
Of anybody know how hard it is to do business in LA, especially that kind of business. So shout out to Arto Brick, because they don't just manufacture tile and brick. They do historic renovations and restoration of places like Olvera Street, Mariachi Plaza, St. Vibiana downtown. So they do some USC, they do some very serious restoration work, and their tiles all handcrafted right here in LA. So shout out to Arto Brick. And a segue, I want to make this clear. We're not getting into politics per se, but I wanted to have Mr. Kubeck on the show.
Steven.
But it's Mr. You're
no,
running
it's
for
Steven.
governor.
Steven.
Okay.
Steven. No, I'm Steven no matter what.
All right. That is okay. Wait, will we call you Governor Kubeck then if you're elected?
How about Steven?
Governor Steven. All right. So not to get quote unquote political, but listen, this is the fact of the matter is everybody has opinions. These are hot button issues. These are polarizing issues. And the fact, objectively, is it's difficult to do business in California right now. So I wasn't even planning on, quote, jumping into this, but I want to start with this because it really is an important issue. And we're seeing it with restaurants, specifically Hollywood. These are important LA industries that are struggling, if not suffering. I mean, give me a take, give me a stance on that right off the bat. Hard hitting.
Hard hitting's great. We can take the hard hits.
Yeah.
We're battle tested. So California's not open for business.
Right.
I grew up here and aspired And I'm a product of the San Fernando Valley.
Yes.
I'm proud of that.
Yes.
And I'm proud, got a great education here, public and private schools. California had the best school system. We're the land of innovation. 58 counties of geography that are unrivaled in the world. California was the greatest state in the United States.
Still is, but yeah, go on.
I believe so. That's why I'm running for office, because Hollywood was Hollywood. You'd be able to afford insurance. You'd be able to afford a home. Okay, I was able to. And you can't today. You can't do any of these things because we're closed for business. California's not affordable, livable, or workable.
Yeah.
But there's solutions.
Right.
And I've been involved. I grew up aspiring to be a doctor, a surgeon.
Heart surgeon, right?
Heart surgeon. I have a degree in science, and I worked at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center.
Okay.
When Cedars-Sinai was just combined, because it was Mount Sinai and Cedars of Lebanon, and they built the new facility.
Good history there, by the way.
By the way, there was a little point of history. There was a pony rides where the Beverly Center was.
I did an episode on that, Beverly Park, right?
I don't remember the name of it, but I remember the pony rides. There was a lot of great things. Los Angeles, I rode my bike to the gym. I ran to the gym. It was all down Sepulveda. It was called the Encino Health Club.
Right.
And from way up high in the hills, I'd run down, it was like 3 miles each way.
Okay.
Safe. I used to ride my bike down to Gelson's.
Yeah.
With so many great things. And, Ventura Boulevard, which is the longest boulevard in the United States.
Correct.
I watched your episodes. Good stuff. You want to know California history, San Fernando Valley, watch your show.
Thank you.
No, a lot of great history. I mean, if you really want to understand the names of, where did Lancashire come from? Chandler. I mean, a lot of great history. I love history because when I grew up here in 5th grade, we were taught California history.
Yeah.
That was a requirement.
The mission projects.
The missions, absolutely. And, we loved our state. And I'm a product of this, and I built this great business. I ended up in the hotel business, operated in 35 countries, 16 languages, 6 currencies, and I fixed the most broken of companies. And I was able to create this worldwide enterprise. And everyone said I couldn't do it. I said, it's unfixable. Feels like after all the due diligence I've done on California, people said it's unfixable. You know what? There are solutions. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm not a politician.
Right.
But I've been involved in politics tangentially. I created the tourism department of the United States.
Saw that.
Brand USA
Inc.
Brand
Absolutely.
USA. No taxpayer dollars. And I was able to change the name of an airport in Las Vegas.
Harry Reid.
Yeah. Built my first hotel in Las Vegas.
Which was that Polo Towers?
Polo Towers.
There we go.
And I was 29. And when I look back, I was always doing things where people said you couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
But I was taught by some really great mentors. Really great mentors. And very special people in my life. Mike Milken.
Okay.
Finance. He gave me my finance business degree.
Yeah.
I never went to business school. Well, yeah, I did go to Cal State Northridge for like a summer school to learn accounting.
Go Matadors. Yeah. My dad's an accountant
an
accountant out of Cal State Northridge.
I went to SC my first year.
Okay.
And then I went back east to school to Brandeis University. Came back, wanted to go into business. So I learned accounting at Cal State Northridge over the summer and went to UCLA night school for business law. And then learned the real estate shopping center development business.
Yeah.
And built shopping centers throughout Southern California. And then built my first hotel at 29.
Hold on. Let's backtrack because I think that's important. I do want to know, why did you go to Brandeis? Great university, Valley guy. What was it about Brandeis that appealed to you?
It was really simple.
And going across the country. Yeah.
Well, I was battlefield promoted there because I went to USC my first year.
Okay.
And I was sitting in my biology class of 1,000 people.
I remember those days.
And I came from a private school, Harvard School for Boys. It's now Harvard Westlake.
Yeah.
On Coldwater. And I was used to small class sizes. And there was like 1,000 people. And the matriculation rate to medical school is like 35%. And at Brandeis, it was 85%.
Okay.
I went with the numbers.
Yeah.
I had never seen Brandeis, but I got in and I transferred, and I'd never been back east.
Right.
I mean, we didn't grow up traveling. I mean, we got in the back of a station wagon and drove to the Grand Canyon.
Right.
I mean, that was, and I spent all my summers in Northern California.
Right.
Because my dad had a land project. He was a sales guy up in Willits, California.
Where's Willits?
Willits is 30 miles north of Ukiah.
Okay.
It's in Mendocino County.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and he developed it's a city today. It's called Brook Trails.
Okay.
It's actually in Senator McGuire's district. And he had another project in Humboldt County called Shelter Cove. That's way up north. So I spent my summers up there between that and Simi Valley. But I also went to Riverway Ranch Camp.
Wait, why Simi Valley, by the way?
Because that's where Camp Al-Anim was.
Okay.
I mean, it was Simi Valley was nothing at that time. There was no freeway out to Simi Valley.
Good point.
There was a 2-lane road to Simi Valley.
And definitely no Reagan Library then.
There was definitely no Reagan Library.
Pre-Reagan, yeah.
There was Rockadine at the top of the hill we'd hike up to. Wow. I'm sure we got all that toxic waste.
Oh, man.
Sitting in me still. Because we would camp out there. That's where camp was. So, and then I went to a couple summers. I went to Sanger, California, outside of Visalia, Riverway Ranch Camp, pretty famous camp. But I spent a lot of time up in Willits, Frontier Days, Redwood Country. They've got the Skunk Train up there.
What is the Skunk Train?
Skunk Train is an open air train, old locomotive that went from Willits to Fort Bragg, which is the coast, through the redwoods. Very scenic. Beautiful, beautiful country. California's got all this great geography, the best in the world.
This is the thing. I always read all these old books from the late 19th century. Charles Nordhoff, the latest one that I'm reading, and I grew up off of Nordhoff, the Nordhoff exit off the 405, and it's about time that I got to this book. But it was 1872, and he was talking about California being the most beautiful geography, where you could travel from anywhere in the U.S., anywhere in the world, but nowhere. And this was 1872, before really development in California, where you could, and we know it now. Now it's a cliche: mountains, beaches, valleys, deserts, flora, fauna, all of it.
That's 22 years after the state was created.
Correct.
So, if you think back, you had the Gold Rush.
Yeah.
Then you had the Spanish-American War, Mexican-American War.
Good call.
That's 1849 fixed, and then we became a state.
Yep.
And the first governor of the state, Pete Burnett, I think it is.
I didn't even know that.
It's Pete Burnett, and that was 1850. So, and it's funny, there was a Jewish governor.
Really?
Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that. Who?
Only one.
Go on.
Washington Bartlett.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Washington Bartlett was a governor of California.
He was the first Jewish governor of California, first Jewish governor in the United States.
I did not know that. That's super historic.
1877. The problem is he only lasted 9 months in office.
What happened?
He died. Poor guy.
All right, so let's talk about you real quick. Why gubernatorial ambitions? What is it?
Well, it's interesting because I've been involved in politics and policy. Harry Reid taught me politics and policy. I met Mike Milken when I was 13 and Harry Reid when I was 15 because they were friends of my dad. Harry Reid was my father's attorney, and he became the majority leader of the Senate.
Yeah, very powerful, very influential.
That's how I became involved in tourism for the United States, because he chose me with President Obama to create this department. No tax dollars. Huge return on investment. Very successful still 14 years later.
Right.
With everything I set up. And everyone said it couldn't be done. And so I've been involved as a donor, but I've done things federally, state, and local. I've been very involved with my businesses. So I've legislated, I've regulated, and I've adjudicated. I've been a judge. And when I decided after I sold my company, where would I like to live the rest of my life? And I was in a no-tax state. I'd moved from California to Nevada.
Yeah, right.
So,
which I want to get into. Yeah.
So, and I was like, Mr. Nevada, I ran the athletic commission, UFC, and boxing.
Oh, yeah.
And most powerful position in the state other than being the governor. The attorney general worked for me. The highway patrol worked for me. And we did a lot of great things in the state, a small state. And the last thing I did there was rename the airport in honor of my adopted father, Harry Reid. And they tried to do that for 7 years. I got involved. I got it done in 3 months.
Wow.
And I got it through the FAA federally in 2 months. And they said that couldn't get done. And I had sold my company, and I said, I'd been all over the world. I had resorts in 35 countries, fixed the most broken. I said, you know what? I always dreamed of living in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And I was looking for properties, and I couldn't find anything. And by fluke, at someone's birthday party, a real estate guy came up to me and said, something just fell out of escrow. I want to show you in the morning. I said, where is it? I can't tell you. I said, okay. I didn't know it's a big secret. He said, it's a big secret. I said, okay. I'm picking you up at 8 o'clock. I'm like, okay. So we get in the car. We're driving. We go to this house, looking at it. It is old.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, whatever. Good piece of land. It's flat. It's in the upper flats. Very difficult. Almost 2 acres. It's a big piece of property.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, let's take a look at it. So we drive in, walk in this house. Still doesn't tell me who owns it. Turn to the right. There's a Bruins jersey. Okay. It says number 1 on it. And it says Kerkorian. And I look over to the left, and there's a picture by Peter Max of the MGM Hotel in Las Vegas with Polo Towers in the background. I have the same picture reversed with Polo Towers in front with the MGM in the back by Peter Max.
Okay.
So, and unfortunately he passed away. And we toured the house, and the kitchen was like untouched. It was brand new. Right. Because the guy never cooked. He was a simple man, but a very powerful man. Yeah. Self-made man.
Absolutely.
Great Armenian.
Right.
Very, very, very philanthropic. And I knew him. I revered him. And we happened to share the same attorneys.
Right.
So I said, okay, this is a lot of coincidence.
Psychic waves.
And we go upstairs, and the bedroom's empty because the bed's taken out, and there's some clothes, a few clothes hanging. And told me the price. I said, good, 2-week cash close. And I bought the property and designed the home of my dreams.
Right.
So I'm very fortunate, and I could live anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But I wanted to live my dream. So I built this home, and
taxes and all, though, coming back.
Well, you want to talk about leading with your wallet.
Yeah.
So I'm going from a 0% tax state because I left California for a while when I was 30.
Right.
And I came back, and I'm paying, the highest tax rate, 13.3.
Oh, man.
But you know what? I've done really well.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem paying taxes as long as I'm getting results.
Right.
So I developed a lot of properties in California in my 20s.
Yeah.
From Hanford down to Temecula, building shopping centers.
Right.
Buena Park, Newport Beach.
Burbank was the first one. Correct?
Burbank, right here in Burbank, Victory and Magnolia. It's still there.
What's there now? And I should know this because I'm always
It
on
was
Magnolia.
a Chief Auto Parts and 4 stores.
Okay.
And 2 of the 4 stores are still there. There's Taqueria.
Get out of here.
There's a taqueria and a nail salon, different owners, but same concepts.
Okay.
We've been back.
That's cool.
We've been back.
Okay.
And it was cool to see that revisited. And the next 2 shopping centers I built were in Bakersfield.
Okay.
And they're still there too.
Bakersfield, big connection with LA, by the way. There's a saying that everybody in LA has a cousin in Bakersfield, by the way. I kind of made that up. But the truth is, when I grew up, everybody that I knew, and again, I went to Monroe High School, a large Latino population. It always seemed that everybody knew somebody in Bakersfield or Delano. And so I kind of came up with that comment. But the Baker Boys, huge influential DJs in the 90s through current, were from Bakersfield, so they keep the legacy alive. So I always feel there's a big LA Bakersfield connection. Go on.
So rap music. We didn't know what rap music was.
Right. Well, in your era. Yeah.
You're really dating my ass. Hey, you want to do push-ups right now? How many push-ups?
I saw that walking in. You're definitely.
I was bodybuilder, and I did shot put in high school. I won a bronze medal. You know, I'm proud of that bronze.
It's impressive.
CIF,
man.
CIF bronze medal, shot put 16 ounce.
Yeah.
Not 16 pound shot put. And we were competing. Harvard School for Boys.
Of course.
You know,
Still to this day.
Well, we had to go to chapel every Tuesday, and it was great. But we competed with some tough schools.
Yeah.
Hawthorne, Lawndale, Lusinger.
Right.
Okay. It was, wasn't just that preppy school. It was pretty competitive.
Listen, Harvard Westlake to this day is Mission League, which is the highest level of competition in LA high school sports, which pretty much puts it on par with anywhere else in the country.
we were Division I, CIF.
Yeah.
It was CIF called then.
Yeah.
CIF.
Right.
And we had speech and debate.
Yeah.
I was on the speech and debate team.
Not a shock. Yeah.
And the funny story about speech and debate, reflecting back. So I could show you. Caruso and I were on speech and debate together.
Oh, really?
He was a senior. I was in 9th grade.
Okay.
Guess what?
What?
I got excellence. He got honors. Go think about that. But he's a nice man. But
he might be your competitor in this.
I don't think so. God bless him.
Really? Okay.
God bless him. I'm a real Democrat my entire life. Okay.
Right.
I'm not one of those fake Democrats.
Right.
I've been a Democrat since I was 18 years
old. But
old.
I want to make clear, by the way, we're going to get into this later, that you're not the quote unquote liberal, by the way, that many people may associate with the Democratic Party. And that's what I find intriguing.
I'm a Reagan Democrat.
Right.
Because I've watched his words. There was a great biopic that was done with Dennis Quaid.
Okay.
And I'm listening to Dennis Quaid portray Reagan, and the words are the same. My words are the same.
Right.
And I'm like, am I a relic, or is it a throwback? Because I think things have come now so full circle where things are so toxic on both sides.
Both sides. Unbelievable.
So I believe in respecting people, being responsible, and showing results.
Right.
Now that's normal, common sense, pragmatic, because I'm a pragmatic problem solver. And I'm not here for the red carpet. You know, there's some people that are in politics, red carpet, and they've got some people hair gel.
Yeah.
But it's a big tent. It's a big tent. We all get along.
Right.
But I've always been true to who I am. I'm never changed.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't believe in stealing $950. You don't steal.
Yeah.
If we stole anything when I was growing up, I'd be more afraid of my father than the police.
Totally.
And so it's about values. It's about it just where did we go wrong? We've done it, all of us together, where we've elected these folks that have never signed the front of a check.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't understand executing. They don't understand accountability.
Are we talking about the city council, by the way? Just
all of them.
For the record.
All of them.
Okay. Go on.
And they don't enforce the laws. We have laws. And we're over-regulated to death. I mean, we've got almost 400,000 regulations in this state. Please, we got Band-Aids on Band-Aids on Band-Aids. You got to rip off the Band-Aid now, each one of them, and fix them.
Yeah.
Affordability, big deal. Hollywood, got to fix that. Insurance, education. But you know what? The good news is it's fixable. Yeah. Homelessness, of course, and I'm very involved with the LA Dream Center.
Yeah, saw that.
Very involved. 5 years. We take care of 42 homeless families every year. So what? You've got these great standard operating procedures in some of these beautiful charities, because I've donated a ton of money because I'm blessed and I love serving and giving money away to those that perform. And believe me, if you don't perform, we're going to ask for the money back.
Accountability.
We have accountability.
Accountability is huge.
We hold
and
tight.
It's been underrated and overlooked for
we hold firm.
Yeah.
We hold tight. So I'm proud to be that conservative Democrat.
Yeah.
But I learned you can't do two things. You know, Crusoe has really good intentions. And, you know, we have what we have today, and we can judge that for what it is, and a lot of untruths.
Yeah.
A lot of untruths, and there's no accountability.
Right.
But Caruso's, flip parties. You can't flip parties and you can't self-fund. You got to build community. It has to be we. And we, look, we have different styles. I've been in the hotel business. I'm an operator.
Yeah.
I consider everyone in California a customer. And it's a different philosophy because I'm not a politician.
Right.
And I'm unscripted.
Right.
And they're all scripted, and they're they're looking for a title and they're looking for a check. I'm not looking for a title or a check. I'm looking for results, and I want all my customers to get equal or greater value.
Yeah.
Totally different game I'm playing, and they've never seen a game like this. So I interviewed all the candidates that were running for governor or thinking about running. I'm telling you how I got into this, and I
interviewed in what context?
As a donor to their campaigns.
Just to you. I want to
because I'm just a donor.
Okay.
I've been a donor for 40 years.
Correct. Okay.
And so I interviewed everybody.
And by the way, big checks. I do the research.
And
this man writes big checks.
Well,
go on.
You know what? You have to serve. Yeah. We all have to serve in some capacity.
Right.
I serve. I've been an activist. I started as an activist. Fighting the fight in the street.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
In what context?
For the greater good of the community.
No, but what kind of activism?
Well, we fought Yucca Mountain.
Okay.
Fought Yucca Mountain so we didn't have nuclear waste 90 miles outside of Las Vegas.
Wow.
I created the beautification project on the Strip in Las Vegas, all those palm trees.
Yeah.
That was funded with no taxpayer dollars.
That's cool.
Changed the name of the airport. Did federal work. And so, I want everyone to aspire. I never dreamed of being where I'm at today, and I've been blessed. So I got to give back all the time. I love serving. And I interviewed all these candidates, and I'm like, this is the best we got. I'm like, you're kidding me, right?
A lot of people
this
have
is like
that sentiment.
This is the best we got?
Yeah.
I said, and one of my lawyer friends said, why don't you take a look at this? You're really good at this. You know how to legislate. You know how to regulate. You know how to adjudicate. And you fix the most broken of businesses, Steven. People bet against you every time, and you just, hit triples and grand slams.
Right.
And you got brass balls, which I do. And I do. You come to my house, I'll show them. My dad gave them to me.
Right.
So I got 2 sets.
Little Glenn Ross right there.
And ABC, man. Always be closing.
Yes.
Coffees for closers.
Yes.
So I'm from that ilk. And look, I've got the integrity. I don't lie. I can't lie. And I get things done.
Things done.
That's because I've always made sure my bankers have done well. My investors have done well. Everyone's done well with me. No one loses money with me.
Right.
And I love serving. I started out as a busboy when I was 8 years old. I was a waiter, dishwasher, assistant cook, barback, maintenance guy.
Yeah.
And in the hotel business, it's not a job I have not done or I'm still not willing to do. I'll still pick up a broom today and sweep.
Right.
But I like teaching. I like helping out and using this experience. So when these lawyers said, take a look at this, I said, okay. So I started to have briefing books made on every aspect of California.
Okay.
Bringing back my 5th grade education of California, but really getting into the weeds and looking at the balance sheet and the income statement of the state and saying, how did we get into this mess? So I started to do due diligence on the California, just as if I was buying a company.
Right.
And I started interviewing a lot of people throughout the state, union leadership and folks in the assembly and the Senate, and just listening. I'm just listening to everybody to try to understand what's going on.
Okay.
Because you can't fix something unless you do your homework first to see what the issues are, and you listen. And there seem to be some real interesting issues. Of course, there's balance sheet and income statement issues.
Yes.
Financial issues. There's insurance issues. There's affordability issues.
Man, oh man.
And that's just government run amok.
Right.
But we did it because we kept electing these types of leaders. So the leaders that have created these problems for us,
Yeah.
in my opinion, are not the leaders that will get us out of these problems.
Right.
We need simple solutions for a better way of life. Okay, for a better way of life.
Yeah.
And an easier way of life. Because we should be blessed living here.
Yes.
So I get involved, and a bunch of my other friends going, "What are you doing this? Are you out of your mind?" I said, "I'm a little cuckoo."
Right. You have to be to be successful, honestly.
And I said, bottom line is, you're not willing to do it.
Right.
So I'm willing to do it because I could take the incoming shots. It's okay.
Yeah.
Anything about me is out there. I tell the truth. It's not a big deal. I'm not a perfect man. No one is.
Gotta have thick skin.
And you got to have thick skin.
Yeah.
I mean, I did reality TV, Undercover Boss.
Yeah.
That was crazy, crazy time. But you know what? It's one of the greatest things I ever did.
Two separate
I was on
right?
Undercover Boss.
For Diamond Resorts International, by the way. We didn't even establish that. One of the best vacation ownership companies. I think it was the second biggest in the world, correct?
Second biggest in the world.
Yeah.
Hilton owns it today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we made the big leagues, and we were bought by the big leagues. But we competed with the big leagues. We were better than them, and they wanted to buy our infrastructure and technology because I fixed the most broken of companies. I assembled 10 companies that were broken.
Yeah.
And I had to solve the sins of the fathers, all the past owners of those companies. I had like 99 lawsuits. I had financial issues, team issues, customer issues, and we just made everyone good.
By the way, and your philosophy was embracing the meaning of yes.
Correct. That's a mark that Hilton owns today. We told every one of our guests,
really?
Yes, equal or greater value.
Yeah.
Equal or greater value. Same thing with tax dollars. It's the same.
Yes.
You're going to be okay if you live in this beautiful, great state.
Right.
As long as you get value.
And people right now, this is a big thing for me, and I see it every day, Los Angeles and beyond California, is they don't feel like they're getting the value, and they don't see it. And you see the insurance and you see the taxes. And then, listen, I'm a cheerleader, so I'm like, oh, we get roads and we get schools and police and fire and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of people don't feel that way because of the issues that we've been talking about, where it's like, all right, great, but what about the crime? What about the homelessness? What about the affordability? What are we getting in return? What is my value on that dollar?
You know what? The good news is,
Yeah.
the good news is, I've done this once before, but it was called fixing Sunterra and creating Diamond Resorts and buying 10 more companies.
Yeah.
Every single attribute running the state was the same as me fixing Sunterra. I had to deal with insurance.
Right.
I had to deal with safety and security. Yeah. I had to deal with affordability. I had to deal with insurance, both property liability, casualty, and health care. I had to deal with the team, delivering the meaning of yes.
Yeah.
So every Californian is a customer.
Right.
No politician's going to say that. Because I'm not a politician. I'm here to solve our problems, and I'm doing it for my kids and your kids.
Right.
And we've got to do this together. We got to do it together. So I've been listening.
Yeah.
And I'm just here to deliver results and use my experience to make California a 5-star state, to make it the greatest state in the United States. And I see the current leadership trying to resist. We need to embrace the federal government and be on offense. We are the 5th largest GDP in the world. We're not a state. We're a country. Let's start acting like a country. And these other leaders that I interviewed, they're all scripted.
Right.
They've never signed the front of a check.
Of course.
Not one of them. Now, I debate all of them right now tonight.
Well, hold on. So let me bring up Governor Newsom right now. Let's talk about it. As polarizing as it gets, even in LA, even in liberal LA, quote unquote. What is your stance on his accomplishments or how the state has evolved under his leadership?
Well, look, everyone can judge for themselves with regard to how they feel. He's a friend of mine, so I'm not gonna trash talk, him. We all see what he has done and has not done.
Right.
And we all have an opinion. And I've got opinions on it. I would just lead and operate differently.
Okay. Okay.
That's the nicest way of saying it.
It's a fair way to put it. But you mentioned...
And he's termed out, so he's not an issue.
Correct. No, you're not going to be right. You're not. It's a wide open field.
It's a wide open field. And look, my philosophies are simple. We are all customers of California.
Yeah.
No other candidate that's running understands this. No other candidate signed the front of a check.
Right.
No other candidate has the experience. No other candidate has California values. Grown up here.
Yeah.
Okay. And they are careerists. They're just looking for a title and a check. I'm not looking for either one of those. I just want results for all of us.
What would that look like?
California would be the bully pulpit of the United States again.
Okay. Again, going back to Reagan or going back
the 80s, baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deukmejian?
Look, if you look at Wilson, Deukmejian, Reagan,
Right.
Brown, Schwarzenegger, Brown again, and Newsom. I mean, look, I've been around, and I'm something that nobody's ever seen before, but we've never seen where we're at today.
True.
So it's going to require different types of skill sets. It's like I said before, it's the people that have failed us and caused this are not going to be the people to get us out of this.
Correct.
Because if they were, we wouldn't be in it.
Correct.
They all are responsible parties. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so have we had enough? Do we want true change? Are we going to save our state? Are we going to save this beautiful place?
Right.
Are we going to fight for it? You need a fighter. So who's going to be able to, out of all the candidates, fight for California?
Well, let's talk about tangibly making that happen, because starting right here in LA, one issue that I'm always pounding the table on that's very important to me, and I think to Los Angeles, the heart and soul, is Hollywood and the industry. And it's funny because I don't cover Hollywood and I don't cover pop culture and celebrity stuff, but without a doubt, that industry is the lifeblood of Los Angeles. It helped build Los Angeles. It made Los Angeles what it is today. I mean, there's so many different industries and all that, but Hollywood is synonymous with Los Angeles, and Hollywood is struggling, suffering, hemorrhaging beyond belief. I mean, people that we all know in the industry either haven't worked in months, aren't getting gigs, are having to leave to go to Hungary, to Mexico City, Toronto, or Atlanta, just to go work. And it's not sustainable. Sound stages are empty. Filming is at near all-time lows. How, just starting there, and I know that's more of a local issue, but Los Angeles is a major cog in the economy of California, and that is the industry that makes it run. What's one actionable item that we could at least look at to start turning the page on that? Good
question. Good news is I've thought about all these things because I've done my homework.
Yeah.
When I grew up in California, California was the bully pulpit of the United States.
Yeah.
California had approximately 5 great exports. Exports. It's counterintuitive.
Okay.
An export means we create revenue from the export.
Right.
It's counterintuitive. And I learned this when I ran tourism in the United States.
Yeah.
Because after 9/11, the United States really didn't have a lot of international visitor traffic,
of course,
because we closed our borders. And it was my job to reopen the international visitation.
Right.
Along with Homeland Security and Customs and Borders. So, we worked on visa policy with Brazil and China. And your global entry, I was part of that. And we increased international visitation. So when you look at California, tourism and travel is an export.
Yes.
Because we have people traveling within the state.
Right.
We have people coming from other states into our state. And then we have international visitation coming into our state.
Of course.
It's a huge export. So tourism and travel is a huge export.
Yeah.
Agriculture is a huge export.
People don't realize
we feed 50% of the United States, but 90% of the fruit trees and nuts. 90% come out of the Central Valley.
Just drive up the 5, baby.
A little fun fact.
Yeah.
Did you know why the Central Valley is so fertile?
Didn't they flood? Am I They flooded it with water from. Wait, tell me why. I'm an LA guy, so it's a little hazy on the Central Valley. Why?
I'm just going to tag you on this one.
Go, tell me.
It was actually called Lake Coachella.
There. Okay.
No, excuse me.
Not
Lake Coachella. Lake Cochrane.
Yeah.
600,000 BC.
Right.
Long.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why it's so fertile. Then you've got innovation, which is called technology today. We're the land of innovation.
Yeah.
All right. Got entertainment.
Yeah.
Television, movies. And we had education. That's actually an export. Because we had the greatest university system,
absolutely.
Both at the UC level and the state level.
Yeah.
With all these research facilities.
And our privates. Absolutely.
And we've lost our mojo in some of these areas. So how do we build them back? So let's go to entertainment.
Yeah.
So no different than running a business. I looked at the competitive landscape and the reasons why we actually gave it away. We didn't have our eye on the road. Okay, so our leaders allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
And it's trickled down. People don't have jobs, they're going to leave the state.
Right.
But they don't want to leave the state because there's no greater state to live in.
Correct.
So when you talk to the people in the industry, stagehands, electricians, grips, camera, actors, and I've got some kids of mine that are in the business.
Okay.
I don't want them leaving the state.
Hell no.
And you talk to other folks that's a whole issue with affordability too. Why are people leaving? You've got grandparents and parents and their kids can't afford to live here, so they leave the state and they're breaking up families. That's another problem. It's a whole segment on that, affordability. So when you're talking about Hollywood, you look at the competitive landscape, you got to do your homework.
Right.
And these politicians don't do their homework. So you got to go look at what Georgia's doing. Then you got to look at New York and New Jersey, Canada, Hungary,
everywhere,
Australia, Ireland,
kicking our ass. Yeah.
Czech, not Czechoslovakia, then Czech.
Right. Czech Republic, right.
Czech Republic. But you look at Georgia.
Yeah.
Let's just look at Georgia. Comparative analysis.
I have a very close friend who moved
his family
to Georgia. Yeah.
Okay. And Tyler Perry's got some big studios.
Right.
Now. He's like a big shot there.
Yeah.
But you look at Georgia, look at the GDP of Georgia and look at the incentives they're giving. Don't call them tax incentives. Okay. I call them incentives.
Okay.
Because when you think about this, what are they doing? They're not giving anything away. They're incenting people to come. So don't use the word tax.
Right.
They're incenting people to come and increasing their GDP, their revenues.
Right.
Which then in turn lower your taxes. So if you look at Georgia as comparison, they're giving a $1.3 billion away in incentives.
Yeah.
And they have a GDP of $563 billion.
Okay.
Tiny compared to California.
Tiny. Yeah.
Because so if you look at California, we're giving $330 million away to Hollywood, which is like an ant on an elephant's ass.
Yeah.
And our GDP is $3.8 trillion. We're a country. Well, we got to start acting like a country.
Yeah.
Okay. And use our horsepower. But this is where the business mind comes in, looking at things differently. I don't look at it.
But how did that happen? Did people just take it for granted? People are like, oh, it's LA, it's Hollywood, it's California. They're never going to leave.
Like I said, they weren't watching the road.
Right.
Why did we lose so many taxpayers? Because we didn't talk to our customers.
Right.
And how did I learn this? I learned this by talking to people throughout the state. And I'm talking about juxtaposed positions. The head of the farm workers.
Yeah.
And the CEO of Chevron told me the same thing. Can you believe that?
Yeah. What was it?
The leadership never talked to them. Now, how can you not talk to your best customers?
Right.
It's simple. You always talk to your best customers and you listen to them.
To have relationships.
And you foster those and embrace those. And the leaders of this state forgot about the most important thing. the customers of the state.
But why does that happen? Where along the line did that happen, and how did that happen universally? Right? Like, look, I'm never of the stance where LA's going downhill and California's going to hell in a handbasket, all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely not the butterflies and roses universal optimism that it kind of used to feel like a little bit. So where along the way did that happen collectively? How does that occur?
Look, power corrupts. Power corrupts. And, we thought that political leaders had our backs.
Yeah.
They weren't listening to us. They didn't. They had their own backs. And government needs to listen to its customers. Government needs to elect leaders that can deliver results. It's funny. Let's just assume this for a second. And I'm not throwing darts or anything.
Yeah.
Vice President Harris raised $1.3 billion and $1.3 billion from donors.
Wow. During the presidential race.
Yeah, she was battlefield promoted.
Wow.
Okay. She's
I did not know that
wordy
was the
word
figure.
salad, but $1.3 billion, and she blew it in 90 days. She lost that race. He didn't win. She lost because they've never signed the front of a check, and they weren't paying attention to the economy, and they weren't paying attention to immigration, and those were the two big issues. And they weren't listening to the customers.
Right.
They were in their echo chamber. Now, if I borrowed $1.3 billion from my banks and investors and blew it in 90 days, you think they'd give me any more money?
Hell no.
You think they'd say, get out of here?
Of course, at the very least.
And you know what? So when you blow $1.3 billion in 90 days, a guy who's declared bankruptcy 3 times is better than that.
Wow.
And that's what happened. Think about that. This guy declared bankruptcy 3 times.
Right.
And he won over the woman and guy who blew $1.3 billion in 90 days. I don't know. So I guess that's worse.
Man. And
they had their chance, right? They had their chance.
Absolute chance. Some would say they were in the driver's seat. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you want to understand, the good news is all of this is solvable. I've done the homework.
Yeah.
I've done the homework. I've got solutions, real solutions.
Well, how are you doing the homework? You're talking to people going up and down the state, but what are you doing? How are you doing this research? How are you doing this homework?
Over the last 16 months, I have studied and studied and studied.
Right.
I understand. I've gone to Lancaster State Penitentiary.
Yeah. Right?
Supermax. And I've been all over the state growing up here. I got California values.
Yep.
I love my state so much.
Yeah.
I'm willing to, believe me, this is tough. This is tough.
Yeah.
It could be the toughest thing I've ever attempted.
Right.
But I feel comfortable and confident that I can deliver results that are meaningful and measurable. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it because I only get W's. I don't like L's.
Right.
So, and I love my state so much. And I roll up my sleeves and get the job done. I'm not a red carpet guy.
Right.
I do the homework. I get up early. I stay late. And I love this because to me, I'm walking around California and I'm everyone's customer.
Right.
So I'm saying hi to everybody.
Yeah.
What's up? And tell me what you're thinking. Tell me about your life. How can we make it better? And I've listened because it's just such a beautiful place. And it's a shame not to get involved and do this. And the other folks, they don't have solutions. I heard this one person that's running for office, they're going to, on their affordability issue, they're going to get a brush and scrub the state. So I'm like, I talked to a reporter and I'm like, hey, I heard this one candidate said they're going to get a brush and scrub the state to make it affordable. I'm like, where do you buy that brush?
What does that even mean?
No, where do you buy it? Where do you buy it?
Right.
Where do you go to, like Walmart? Do they sell that brush at Walmart, man? I'm like, what are you talking about? But this is the silliness that we put up with. And I'm calling BS on this stuff.
Right.
I'm calling BS. I got nothing to lose and everything to gain for all of us.
Right.
I'm doing this selflessly. Hard work. I'm loving it because, I'm representing. I know the assignment, man. I know the assignment.
That's interesting. Look, your track record bears it out, right? Self-made developer, started with shopping centers, owned a tremendously successful company, again, multi-state, commissioner of the, or chair of the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Correct.
Hobnobbing with Barack Obama, the Clintons, Harry Reid.
I go back to the George Mitchell days.
Right, George.
Tom Daschle.
Tom
Daschle.
Right.
George Mitchell.
Yeah.
Dale Bumpers. John Bro, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So Cory Booker, dear friend of mine.
Cory Booker.
Dear friend of mine. I mean, the good news is, but Kevin McCarthy's a good friend of mine.
Right.
Eric Cantor's a good friend of mine. Roy Blunt, when I led tourism in the United States,
yeah,
it was no identity politics.
Yeah.
I'm working with Amy Klobuchar, Senator of Minnesota,
yeah,
and Roy Blunt of Missouri. So it's like we're just getting it done for all Americans.
Listen, I've always said this, especially since politics has been so polarizing, is I feel like Democrat, Republican.
Hey, we're Californians.
Everybody wants the same thing. They want their family to be safe. They want economic security, and there's different ways to go about it, and there's different opinions. But when you sit down and break bread with somebody, people aren't as far apart as it really seems. And especially now with the media and social media specifically, it seems that it's like, wow, how could we ever unite these two parties, these two factions? But I always think, and look, I'm kind of like you on a smaller scale in the fact that I am going around and talking to people, Los Angeles, and everybody has the same goals at the end of the day. So it's just a matter of presenting it in a way where it's not polarizing. It's not me versus you. It's us together. And that's what's the important thing.
You hear me? It's us.
Yeah.
We.
Yeah.
Us. We. I can't do this alone.
Right.
It's got to be together. And it's just pragmatic problem solving. It's common sense. You hear that today. But it's common sense.
Right.
But it's common sense if you have had the experience.
Right.
Have you signed the front of a check? Have you made payroll?
Right.
Have you come out of your pocket for payroll when you got to pay others first before you pay yourself?
Right.
And that's really, do you have brass balls? And can you fight the fight?
Right.
And I know that our current president, because I know him pretty well from the business world.
Yeah.
He respects me and I respect him. How about that? Okay.
Right.
And I could sit down with anybody as long as there's no hate and we have a safe place.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to put up with the yelling and screaming. Bring back collaborative, non-vitriolic talk. You hear, this is how I see it. You want to sit in a conference room and work things out privately. Just no hate. And don't raise your voice. And we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, have a discussion. And disagreements are fine.
But how about let's get shit done? Let's get shit done and call bullshit when it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And this is the way I talk. And this is the way I will continue to talk. Because I am real, raw, and I'm just calling it as I see it, balls and strikes. And that's the way it's going to be on my watch.
Has to be authentic and genuine because people see through the bullshit right now.
I can only be one way.
I want to go back to something you said about California standing up to the federal government and being on the offensive, especially because you brought up the president. And I know there's a lot of posturing. I'm not going to take this like hardline stance. Like it's a lot posturing and playing for the cameras and doing all this kind of stuff. But how would you go about that when the president, at least on paper, if you will, has kind of presented California as not an enemy, but he hasn't really embraced California, even though I think we know how important it is. What does that mean going on the offensive? How do you?
Well, first of all, you have to understand always who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Or with.
Right.
He knows me. I know him.
Yeah.
We respect each other. He's not going to get up my shit.
Right.
I know where to poke him. He knows where to poke me.
Right.
And we're not going to do it because we need each other and we want to get things done for the people. Okay. And if you look at the president,
Yeah.
he goes after those that he doesn't respect.
Correct.
He just does it, look, he does it in I'll put it this way. I'm the undercover boss. He's the apprentice.
Good point. Good point.
I listen. I make everyone cry at the end with happy tears.
Right.
In his show, they're crying because he fired them.
Yeah.
So, look.
Different approach.
There's different approaches. It's tongue in cheek, but both have bravado.
Right.
I come with compassion and warmth. And it's not about me. I want to cook you what you want to eat.
Right.
I will serve you. I will then listen and have a good chat. I will clean your plate.
Right.
And make sure you leave with a smile. He wants to be served. It's very different.
Different style of leadership.
So
yeah.
Remember, I'm into customer service.
But you're going on the offensive though,
offensive because
a charm offensive.
Well, it's not just a charm offensive.
Right.
It's respect for one another because California needs federal government as much as the federal government needs California.
Correct.
Because California produces about 14% of the United States revenue stream.
Wow.
That's powerful if used properly.
Correct.
And by the way, when he came to town and he had his way with Mayor Bass and Brad Sherman, well, I mean, what a shit show that was. That was actually funny. That you I was like, I would have said, Mr. President, I heard everything you said. I do want to get everyone back to their homes in the Palisades and eating right away.
Yeah.
But you know what? You and I are both builders. We're both in the hotel business. Well, actually, you licensed hotels. I actually built, designed, and operated them. But, last time I looked, that first 30 days, that's the EPA.
Right.
That's on you, pal. Right. So when you get your things done, you come back and talk to us. And then we're going to make a decision whether or not the people want to have the Army Corps of Engineers do the work, which is, by the way, back on you, pal.
Yeah.
Or people can do it themselves.
Right.
But you got to level set them because unfortunately, the leadership in Southern California is weak. City council's weak.
Right.
And because they're never signed the front of a check. And I'm just calling balls and strikes here.
Okay.
Because you got to let people know what's up. Right. I mean, you start having to replace infrastructure of 25,000 homes. You got subsoil issues. Not you're going to grade just the first 2 inches. You got to go deeper because you got rains, water.
It's a complete,
you got soil issues.
Yeah.
You want to get those toxic levels out to protect the people. But you've got to bury those utilities. Why do the same thing over and over again? You're going to put power poles in the air again with transformers? They're going to snap again? No, come on. So, and who's going to have a reservoir that's unfilled for a year over 170 grand?
Yeah.
Come on. What a bunch of knuckleheads. You know that reservoir is still not filled?
No.
Guess what? I know this because I was involved in Altadena.
Right.
Good friend of mine, Sean Penn, called me. I'm involved with his charity. I'm involved with all these charities.
Yeah.
And that's another great thing. We could do public-private partnerships with all these beautiful charities.
Right. Saw that.
We got 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 if we do that with great charities that perform effectively and efficiently with results. He calls me and goes, Cloobeck, we got, it's my nickname, by the way.
Yeah.
He goes, got a couple issues. We got an issue in Malibu, mobile home park. We got a church issue, and we got Altadena reservoirs. I said, what's up in Altadena? He goes, well, there's 3 reservoirs. One of them is a nonprofit owned by homeowners, and they don't have enough money. If we combine our efforts with Core, Caterpillar, and your philanthropy and your expertise, I think we can get this cleaned up in 10 days.
Yeah.
I go,
faster, a lot more.
I said, you kidding me? Let's get it done. And in 3 days, I said, do we have a contract ready to go with Caterpillar? Yep. Good. Great. Is Core ready? Yep. Good. Check the box. All we need is some philanthropy. I said, I got that.
Right.
You get the wire in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And from my foundation. And we got this work done. And you know what we found out? There was no water in Altadena. And if you go this underserved community, remember that Altadena was built because Pasadena redlined.
Yeah, no, it's one of the
redlined
biggest and most important stories.
The black and brown community.
Absolutely.
And not to have folks watching over them. So we got water back and running in Altadena in 10 days. And they're still cocking around in
Palisades.
The Palisades. Well, they don't understand how difficult that is in the Palisades because they've got infrastructure issues, but you've got all these competing interests.
Right.
If you read the LA Times article that just came out the other day, Soboroff was involved. And now he's gone.
Yeah, that was a debacle.
You get the battle of the egos.
Of course.
And, I mean, what guy in their right mind was going to take any money on that? That's done well. How about serving?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
You write the check, you don't get the check.
500,000.
No,
which seems like a pittance for somebody of that stature. But yeah.
And to not have the transparency to all of us that are actually paying this. And what about the homeless crisis and having unaccounted for money both at the local and state level?
LA,
and then
LASA. That was a huge debacle. Yeah.
Crazy. And then how about from COVID? They want you to forget. COVID, workers' comp, EDD, $30 billion of fraud still uncollected. Yeah, then you got the homeless money of about $20 billion, and then you got $33 billion of revenue that fled the state. Well, there's your deficit. Hello?
So it's your job. It's going to be your job, in theory, to clean that up, clear that up, add transparency, and serve the customer again and provide that value.
Proven. I've done it.
Right.
So I know the playbook.
Yeah.
I've done the homework, and I challenge any other candidate on a debate stage.
Yeah.
Anytime. Have you done your homework? Or are you just looking for the title in the front of a check? And by the way, I didn't know that this was a buffet. You can just pick and choose which job you want to do.
Right.
You got to do a little homework here.
Right.
Are you prepared for the debate? I'm prepared right now. Okay? And I've proven them wrong so many times before, and I only deliver results.
Yeah.
And I'm having a good time. And I said to myself, as long as I'm having a good time, because I studied all these books for a good couple months. So a lot of volumes of these books.
Right.
The entire state. And I put them down for 4 weeks. And I said, if I come back to these books, I'm going to be in. And I came back to the books because I love the state so much. And everyone says I'm out of my mind. But you know what? I've got it in me to make us a 5-star state again.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate that. It's great ambitions, aspirations, LA guy, Valley guy. So that's my heart and soul. And
Valley. That's Valley Girl was created in my genre. Spicoli. You know what's crazy? Spicoli was a big deal. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Of course. Yeah.
And I'm working with him today, and he's a dear friend.
There you go.
No, everything's full circle.
It's true. It's true. Coming back and serving the people that help make you the success that you are today. I mean, that's what it's about. Well, look, there's a lot that we didn't get into because there are so many issues. I wanted to talk about Vegas a little bit more, your history in Nevada, immigration, which I know is a key and important issue for you and for the state of California. And even just your upbringing and background in Encino and the Valley. I got to give a shout out to Flukies, which you wanted to give a special mention to. My Flukies was in Granada Hills, by the way, no longer there, which was across the street from a batting cage, World Series batting range, which is also no longer there. But the Flukies you went to in Encino actually...
No, Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks had a batting cage?
No, Sherman Oaks, and if I believe Sherman Oaks... I'm trying to remember the exact street. You could probably look it up in the almanac.
I'll be able to find it.
Yeah. Flukies had a batting cage, and it was close to the Lorena Theater.
Yeah.
There was a Lorena Theater.
That's right here. That's right down Ventura.
Lorena Theater's in Sherman Oaks.
Yeah.
There used to be a music store, Baxter Northrop, and
And that was the first batting cage in the Valley, or even LA potentially, I think, right?
Yeah, before the big Magic Castle on Sepulveda.
Right.
But when that was built, that was a big deal. Then there was a great drive-in, with drive-in movies, Van Nuys. It's now that's where the public storage is now. The public storage facility, the public storage.
Yeah.
That was the Van Nuys drive-in. I saw my first R-rated movie there. My parents took me to an R-rated movie.
What was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was.
I snuck into Rambo, by the way. That was mine, by the way. In a
Yeah,
theater,
this was.
Lita.
My parents they didn't do their homework. There was no internet then, right? So, and they had a car that had a roof that came down, a ragtop, and it was Deliverance.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those memorable PTSD. It's a PTSD moment.
Absolutely.
Seeing Deliverance with your parents.
Did not know. Nobody knew what they were getting into at the time.
Squeal like a pig.
Wow. Interesting.
Ned Beatty.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And it's
Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
Ned Beatty. I got stories that we could talk about because, Robert Evans was a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Paramount. Producer of Chinatown, Godfather.
Yeah. I read books about
Mentor. I got a story about Robert Evans. I actually smuggled him out of the country and back into the United States.
Why? How?
You want to leave it for another time?
Yeah, let's do it. We got a part 2 because there's so much left on the table. But listen, in the meantime, get a clue. This is Steven Kubeck running for governor. You will be seeing a lot. This is a wide open race. And look, the future of our state is at stake. This is the great state of California, which I can't tout enough. But the reality is there are some very important and tough issues going on right now. We all know it. We all see it. And Steven Kubeck's here with solutions and the knowledge. And he has done the homework to hopefully get us going back on that right track. So check him out. Where do we find you? What's the best way to
go
keep
to
up?
Stephen J. Kubeck.
Steven,
.com.
STEPHEN.
STEPHN, or you go to Cloobeck for governor.
Yeah. CLOOBECK.
Yeah. California, get a clue. Get a clue. CLOO.com.
Yeah.
We've got just about every derivation you can come up with.
Okay.
I think we have like 300 domains.
That's us.
But we're there. Look us up. Come check us out. California values.
Yeah.
Going to make California affordable, livable, and workable, and open it back up for business.
Let's do it. Well, I appreciate you, and I thank you for being here. Part 2, we got a while because the election. Let's see, what is there primaries for the gubernatorial?
There is. It's June 2nd, 2026.
Yeah, so we got a while. So we'll be building. Let's have a part 2, and I want to get more into the background and just a lot of details, and it's going to be evolving. But
this is a lot of fun.
I appreciate you being here, and I thank you very much. And check him out, Steven Kubeck, potentially next governor of California. So. All right, you know where to follow, like, subscribe, and share. And all right, LA, it's been a minute.